Paula P. Works here, coming at you once again with One Piece, chapter 1094, Gorosei, Science Defense Deity, Saint J. Garcia, Saturn. So we got a color spread this week of the Shimonosuke clan in honor of the Ryuma anime that's going to be coming out soon. I did a video about that on the channel. Go check that out. But yeah, this is really cool because I remember Mr. Bushido bringing this up, and we kind of see it in this color spread. Zoro has flames around one of his swords. I can't tell which one it is. It could be Enma, but he has a flame surrounding one of his swords, and then it seems like he's immuting the lightning that's commonly associated with Conqueror's Haki, right? So I'm wondering, is this a special attribute of Enma, or is it his special ability because he learned the whole flame rendering technique, the Firefox style, from watching Kinemon fight? So I don't know what's up with the flames, but yeah, we see Zoro, we see zombie Ryuma, which is interesting. We see Old Man Yasui, we see Kuina, we see Kozaburo, we see Kurashiro, and old dude whose name I forgot, whom is the owner of Onimaru. We see him as well. The guy who was one of the samurai who gave Yamato food before going off and fighting Kaido. We see him. And I think this red image in the back is supposed to be Ryuma when he was alive. And quite funnily enough, one of his eyes is covered up by the silhouette of the dragon he slayed. So that's really interesting. I did a whole video about how I wonder how the dragon's going to look now. So Atlas tells the pacifistas to stand down and to focus on the Marines. The pacifista Mark IIIs start to wreak havoc on the Marines that have invaded the island. And then we get our first little interesting lore tidbit. When they're in the Vega Tank 8, Vegapunk, I don't know if it's the Stella or Atlas, but one of them mentions that Karoseki, Sea Stone, has the property of sticking together, which makes sense because we have the sea clouds and such on the Sky Islands, and those same sea clouds are here on Egghead. But what's interesting is that it's the wheels that are made of the sea cloud, and that's sticking to the roll that the Vega Tank is riding on because it's also made of sea cloud. So sea cloud sticks to sea cloud. I don't remember if that's actually brought up in Skype. I know the element Pyrobolin is brought up, but yeah, that's interesting. Apparently, Sanji's Lady Radar is a real ability. That is not a joke. We first get the first visual depiction of that, I recall, back during the Return to Shibodi arc, where he was locking on to the various women that were on the island after suffering from being on the Kamabaka Queendom for so long. And apparently Vegapunk co-signs that this is an ability, even though it's unscientific. So that's very funny. Then we get something else from Bonnie, which I'm really starting to think and double down on my age fruit idea, which I made a video about that. Go check that out. But she does something called near-death experience, in which she shoots some Marines, and she does a pose that oh boy, getting flustered. She does a pose, and I may just put this on screen, censor it a little bit so I don't get caught by the content goons. But yeah, she does this pose, and it's giving me the vapors. Because, boy, Oda loves drawing Bonnie. I could tell it. This whole page, you get all these very interesting shots of her, I'll say that. But getting back to the task at hand, she does an interesting attack called Near-Death Experience, in which she shoots some Marines with some pistols, and it grazes their heads, but then I guess they're living the reality of if they were shot and died, and that knocks them out. That is super interesting because now there's a weird mental ability to her power. I find that fascinating. So she's making them live an age in which they died. That's what I'm saying. I think it's not time fruit. I'm doubling down on it again. I don't think it's the time fruit. I think it's wordplay on the word age. So she makes them live in an age in which they did actually get shot in the head. I think that's what's going on. But yeah, we flash to a pacifista actually turning to her body to attack her. And it's the cool old lady, actually. And we get a name confirmation. Navy Headquarters, Vice Admiral Bluegrass. So the old lady's name is Bluegrass, and she has something called the ride fruit, which may be translated into the drive fruit, and it allows her to control the pacifista. But it seems to be that she's only limited to one at a time, because she's mounting the pacifista like a horse and driving it around. I'm wondering if the handle that she's holding on to is a manifestation of her ability, because that seems more likely. I want to find out more about this, which is really funny too, because people were saying, like, wow, years back now, that if Tama joined the crew, she would basically be this, because there would be some sort of rigmarole in which every arc she would find some weird animal to tame, and that would be her mount throughout the arc. So I guess you could say that idea lives on in Bluegrass, which is cool. And apparently, she can command the pacifistas to shoot, because the pacifista Mark III is about to gun down Bonnie, but she is saved by Sanji, only to be attacked by this weird other vice admiral with a big hammer, a clam. And the attack is called Raccoon Hammer. So here's my thinking, okay? I know it's called Raccoon Hammer, but is this dude an otter? Because the tail doesn't look like a raccoon or a tanuki or whatever. And tanuki and raccoon aren't really associated with clams. Otters are. So this dude could just be a Zoan, because he's very animalistic. That's obvious. You can see that from the feet and the tail and kind of the face. He's got like a little goober face. It's kind of hard to see, but it looks like he would be an otter, because otters open clams and scallops. That's their thing. They bang them open with rocks. That's their whole bit. So with the hammer looking like a clamshell, he's probably an otter. The raccoon hammer probably is a mistranslation. It probably is otter hammer. Thanks to the power of editing, I was actually correct in this, because another translation has fallen off of a truck, and the attack is called Whackin' Otter. And the dude that's attacking is, in fact, an otter Zoan, which is very interesting too, because I think this makes him the second aquatic animal Zoan in the series, not counting Kaido, who has the fish fruit. But yeah, because it was Smiley with the axolotl fruit, and now you have him. Yeah, very, very interesting. I love it, though. I love that he's a big otter. Reminds me of My Hero Academia. Anyway, Luffy and Kizaru are still fighting. Luffy can chase after Kizaru, apparently, and Kizaru is just kind of getting pushed on the back foot constantly by Gear 5th Luffy, apparently, which is amazing, because this is the first time that we see Luffy go toe-to-toe with an admiral, and they seem to be equal. Also, I forgot to mention, Kizaru and Luffy are on the cover of Jump this week, which is kind of crazy, because I do not recall ever there being a time in which an admiral from One Piece was on the cover of Jump. I could be wrong about that. I will take no hardship in being incorrect, but I swear I do not remember there ever being a time in which an admiral was on the cover of Jump. So congrats to Borsalino. Big ups for the most impressive admiral in the series. Well done. Very good. Moving on though. But yeah, Kizaru is tired of the smoke and wants to complete his mission, so he zips off. Luffy chases after him by running in the sky again. So if you were in doubt that was a real ability, it's a real ability. And then everybody senses a terrible force on the island. I find it interesting that Sanji's left out of this sensation, though, because Luffy picks it up, Zoro picks it up, Luffy picks it up, Kizaru picks it up, and Jinbei picks it up. Hooray! Jinbei over Sanji again. Fantastic. Oh no. And Usopp doesn't pick it up either, even though he's got observation too. So I don't know. And then the weird Vice Admiral with the bucket hat just says, "Could it be?" And then someone commands all the pacifistas to stop. And the only person with higher command than Vegapunk are the Gorosei. And we see a pentagram form on the ground. Now, immediately when I saw this, my mind went back to Shabani Archipelago again and the results of that event. If you don't remember, when Brook was paw-pad away by Kuma, he landed on a weird island in which a bunch of occultists were trying to summon a demon. And they used a pentagram circle. And instead, they summoned Brook and mistook him for some sort of satanic entity. So I think we're getting a allusion to that here, but it's very, very real because Saint Garcia Saturn is about to land on the island, and the Marines call this a magic circle. And of course, the Gorosei have a higher authority than Vegapunk when it comes to all the pacifista models. So this thing that's coming out is huge because the flames from it, the flames and the smoke, are billowing up, and they're bigger than the Vega tank on the Cloud Road. It's very interesting. Sanji notices that something is coming out of the pentagram. We see him. Well, no, we don't see him. Some fodder Marines see him, and they were warned not to look at him because one does, and his head explodes. His head just pops off. It explodes. Big gush of blood. I don't know if it's completely obliterated, but the dude that he's standing next to is freaking out. And I think this is a targeted attack because before then, we see Garcia Saturn's eye light up. So perhaps he just targeted that particular Marine and just popped his head. But then, yeah, we see him. Woo, boy. Well, here's another thing that we know from just looking at this big boy here. That, yeah, Awakened Zoans all have this Shroud of Mastery, that's for sure. Because Saint Garcia Saturn is this weird bull spider demon with a cloak of mastery around him. And people were saying in the spoiler leaks that this is a reference to the Ushi Oni, which is a yokai, also called the Gayuki. Forget my pronunciation. From the little research I did, this could also be one of the times in which a bunch of things are mixed together, because by the pentagram that I assume Saint Garcia Saturn is using for teleportation, it's kind of an allusion to BAAL or BAAL, because BAAL has a sigil, a pentagram. Well, it's not really a pentagram, it's a sigil that is associated with him. And BAAL is also called a hoarsely voiced king with the powers of invisibility and sometimes the powers of sciences and love. And Saint Garcia Saturn is the deity of science and defense. So it kind of works. And BAAL is also seen as a king. So the Gorosei are the highest authority in the world government. So they are essentially kings. They aren't the highest king, that's Emu, but you could consider them kings of the land, even though they don't sit atop a throne, which is a little weird, but they are high authority, so it works. So maybe it's a combination of the two, both of BAAL and the Ushioni. I'm thinking the devilfruit name is most likely going to be the ox fruit model Ushioni. That's probably what it's going to be. But yeah, the allusions to BAAL are super interesting. I really do wonder what's going on here. And now about the invisibility, I don't really know if that's going to play a role here. Like, what powers does this thing have other than making people's heads explode? So that's very interesting. But regardless, this is our second yokai-based Zoan fruit in the series, because Onimaru, who appeared on the color spread, also had a human fruit that was based off of the yokai. But I think his was just like a big monk or something like that. It wasn't anything like too spectacular, nor did he have any really spectacular abilities, which is kind of weird. So yeah, the second yokai Zoan in the series. Wait, no, my bad. Technically, Saturn would be the third because Catherine de Devon has a kitsune fruit. A kitsune is a yokai. So, yeah, you got Onimaru, Catherine de Devon, and now Saturn. Because the one Tanuki fruit that's canon is based off the actual animal. The only other Tanuki fruit is in a video game, and he's a yokai, but he doesn't count. He's not canon. So, yeah, 31st Mythical Zoan, I guess. I kid. But there are a lot of Mythical Zoans. There are a lot of them. And I think now we're at a point which we have more Mythical Zoans than we have Logia. I have to look that up. But they're catching up. Just from seeing him here, we can infer that, yeah, if you see that weird shroud around someone, something that looks like a ring, most likely an awakened Zoan, because Mythical Zoans are kind of ruling the roost, as it were, seeing as how the highest authority in the land has one. They probably all have one, which I guess makes a lot of sense because in theory, you could possibly have the powers of a Logia as well as a Paramecia if the ability calls for it. But we'll have to see. But yeah, we cut back to Kizaru doing his job. He actually dismantles the cloud roll that Vegapunks were riding on. And Luffy comes in, does that monkey, gives us a big arm blow up, which he's doing without blowing into his hand. We get Gum Gum No Star Gun, or Gum Gum White Star Gun. And he plows Kizaru in the head, and stars come out of the hit, which, what are these? Because they have depth. You can see that they have depth. I don't know. I don't actually know what these are supposed to be. What's even weirder is that Kizaru is not fazed by this. He just says, this is bad. Which, what is Kizaru on, bruh? Like, it's weird. That's why I'm not going to call Kizaru a fraud. I'm not, because this whole showing has been very interesting. He's so nonchalant. But then, of course, Luffy reaches his limit, and he starts to turn into old man Luffy. Garcia looks at this display and just says Nika very ominously. And he's a big boy. This Zoan transformation is a big boy. Also, again, the rule of thumb here, since he's our second mythical Zoan in the series to be awakened, because there's no doubt that he's a mythical Zoan, no doubt. Nika seems to be the only one with the white clouds, which is also very interesting, because now Lucy and Kaku had black clouds, and now Saturn has black clouds. So I wonder what separates Nika from these guys, because I don't actually know if it's a deity thing. It could be, but I don't know. Or it could reflect the intentions of the person who is awakening. Could be that. It doesn't necessarily have to be a fruit related thing. It could relate to the desires of the person who has awakened said fruit. Don't know. But that's also very interesting. Unconfirmed yet, but I'm willing to bet he's a mythical Zoan, because that ability is not an ability of a regular animal. Like, come on now. He teleported himself via a pentagram. Get out of here. Mythical Zoan. But yeah, he's watching Luffy fall to the ground, and he is now looming over Vegapunk, Frankie, Sanji, Bonnie, and Atlas. And he is lamenting as he looks down at Vegapunk, saying, I thought you had long been killed, Vegapunk. And then we get what seems to be the start of what's going to happen in 1095, which I'm going to predict is going to be a big flashback of what Bonnie actually saw in Kuma's memory bubble, because we get these little thought bubbles of her seemingly remembering things that were said. Because it says here, I issued the order, Vegapunk, as Bonnie readies a sword and goes after Saint Garcia Saturn. And then it says, retaining his sense of self, I absolutely won't allow it. However, if you do that, then Kuma, ... And then she stabs Saturn in the gut, or through his beard, wherever it is there. And she draws blood, which is crazy. Bruh, Bonnie for Straw Hat, bro. I love her. She's great. Bonnie's great. Man, what a cool chapter. No break next week either, which is even better. So, yeah, what a spooky, spooky transformation for our spooky month of Halloween. Super interesting, super cool. But getting back to my theory about 1095. Okay, we're going to get a rundown of how Kuma lost his sense of self and all that. That is assuredly going to happen from Bonnie's POV, from looking in the memory bubble, okay? And then that will probably end up giving Bonnie a sort of sense of resolve if she is a main character moving forward, which I'm kind of placing my bets on her being just that, because another thing that's going to happen, especially seeing as how Bonnie is in a very dangerous situation, just like back on Shiboni Archipelago in the pre-time skip, Kuma's coming to Egghead and he's going to save his daughter as a final stand. And this is where Kuma is going to die. He's going to buy Luffy and the others time to escape, and he's going to get blasted by Saturn. No doubt. And then the paw fruit's going to resurrect on that Mekon tree. I'm calling it. Okay, everybody. See you next week. Thank you for watching and give me your thoughts.